I am going to be speaking from my heart. And the thing that I love doing the most is motivating, encouraging you, inspiring you to be the absolute best you can be. And you're going to be inspired today. You're going to be motivated today. It's no doubt about it. When you tune into what I have to say today and let it charge your heart, I'm telling you, it's going to move your hands and feet to do something special. So are you ready for that? Pedro gave me the ultimate compliment the other day when he said, I'm the fitness pastor. I wasn't quite expecting that, but church is now in session. And I want to thank my beautiful wife for being here in California with me, and also for her effort in carrying our second child. I'd be remiss if I did not start off things by celebrating her, because she's the real MVP. She's the one that really makes what we do special. So I love you from the bottom of my heart, and you know that's sincere. Absolutely. So today we're going to be talking about your handiwork. And when we think about our hands and the power of our hands and how God has crafted our hands, the amazing ability of our hands, they are special. Our hands are used to do some special things. And so I'm going to teach you a proverb, a very powerful, wise saying. And it goes like this. Do you see the man diligent with his hands? He will stand before kings. So let's repeat that. Say, do you see the man diligent with his hands? He will stand before kings. That's a powerful, powerful proverb. Powerful, wise saying. And let me tell you something, with our hands, our very hands, when we think architecturally, what our hands have created, from the Eiffel Tower to the Empire State Building to massive bridges that we drive across and million-dollar homes that millionaires live in. When we think about the power of our hands and what they have built, and you may be thinking, well, machines actually did that, but actually it was our hands that even created the machine. So our hands are very powerful in nature. The roads that we drive across, the massive things that our hands have created are special. And when we think from a loving standpoint, our hands are meant to embrace and to hold. When I need to cuddle with my wife and caress my wife and keep her safe and keep her warm, my hands are used for that. When we think about our hands and the power of our hands and what they're able to do, your hands and my hands, we can warn somebody or forewarn somebody, tell somebody to stop, tell somebody to come. With these two things that you see in front of my face right now, our hands are important and they're powerful. I'm talking about from a skill level as well. Our hands are meant to write poetry, and our hands are meant to make extravagant paintings. And even Stephen Curry, the NBA great right there, his very own hands, in practice, y'all, his hands made 77 straight three-pointers. That's a bad man. 77 straight three-pointers were made with his hands. All right, he's the ultimate long-range shooter. That guy can draw them up from long distance with no problem. And even my very hands, my hands were built and made for me to earn and receive a $160,000 scholarship to play football at Bucknell University. And I thank God for these hands. And you ought to be thanking God for your hands too. And let me tell you, they're important, and they are meant for you to do amazing things that eyes have not yet seen. I hope you believe that your hands have that type of power. Yes, your hands and my hands. They are amazing, and they can do crazy things. Crazy things. But with all that said and done, there's nobody's hands that are more diligent than that lady's hands right there. Like Abraham Lincoln, he said it best. He said, all that I am and ever hope to be, I owe it to my angel mother. And let me tell you, with those two sets of hands right there, man, there's nobody. Let me tell you, there's nobody who can outwork that woman right there. I witnessed it with my very own eyes. She's a strong woman. She's a hard-working woman. She's a woman that I've witnessed do amazing things with her hands. And she's provided a lot for our family. See, this house right here, that's my grandmama's house. That house right there is actually where we grew up in as kids. And it was a tight house. It was a small room in the back of grandmama's house. And in that small room, there are 4 people living in it, my mother and 3 kids. But what landed us in this small, tight house, the precursor to this was, well, it was back in Alabama, and my mother, my father, they had a bad separation. And I can remember to this day, my mother would wake us up early in the morning. They were entrepreneurs of all sorts. They were really the pride of the neighborhood, because just the two of them working on their own back then, back in Alabama, building a brand new house from the ground up, they were the pride of the neighborhood. But they separated. Prior to that separation, though, my mother would wake my brother and I up, and my mother and father, they were trying to own their own newspaper company, ordeal, and my mother would wake my brother and I up, and we were competitive as kids. I remember it like yesterday, and we see who could take the newspaper as we strolled through the neighborhood, and who could throw that newspaper. The fathers, our mom woke us up and was teaching us at an early age what work ethic meant. But then once that separation happened and we had to move out and move into my grandmother's house, in a small back room in my grandmother's house, and my grandmama, she had 10 kids, so it was tight, y'all. It was tight. She had 10 kids, and some of them had moved away, but many of them were still there. And so in that small little room, my brother and I, we shared a bunk bed. My mother and my sister, they slept in their bed. And sometimes in the summertime, because it would get so hot, we would then, all of us would go into the living room to sleep in the living room, because the living room was the only place in the house that had the AC. And then in the wintertime, whenever it got cold, we would leave that small room and we would sleep in the living room that was in my grandmother's house, because the living room was the only place that had a fireplace. It was tight, y'all. It was real tight. I can remember it like yesterday. I can also remember my brother and I, we had to share bath water. That was nasty. Yeah, we had to share bath water. I remember that episode clearly. My brother and I, after playing sports and getting in from a long day of just having fun, actually had to share bath water, because my grandmother didn't want us to bring up the water bill, didn't want us to drain the hot water out the house. So things were just tight. And that level of adversity right there is what inspired my mother to work her hands, to work her fingers down to the bone. See, you need to understand right now that your adversity that you're going through is exactly what you need to go through to get to your next level. And I hope that you aren't shying away from adversity, the storms that you're going through, the hurdles that you're having to overcome, the obstacles that you're having to climb through. The level of adversity that my mama faced, and she looked at that situation, and it gave her the ambition to work 3 jobs at a time to get us out of that small house. And thank God I witnessed my mother do that, because I just had you repeat the proverb that says, "Do you see the man diligent with his hands? He will stand before kings one day." And I seen the woman diligent with her hands, and because I witnessed that level of greatness, check this out. I moved from the back room in my grandmother's house to having a guest room in my own house. God is good. I'm thankful for that. But here's what I believe. I believe that there are handcuffs that we all have. Invisible handcuffs. One of the first things that happen whenever we get in trouble and the police arrest somebody, they slap handcuffs on them. But I think, and I do believe, and I've witnessed that some people have indicted themselves by self-imprisonment, and they're wearing invisible handcuffs. They're not doing what they should be doing. They're not taking on the level of work ethic that they should be taking on, and it's almost as if they have handcuffs on. So just in case that's one of you out here today, I don't necessarily want to frustrate you, I want to agitate you. Alright, I want you to put your hands up in the air, and I want you to lock wrists with me just like this. Go ahead, put them up in the air. Alright, on the count of 3, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, and when I yell 3, I want you to say free. Ready? And also break your hands like this. Here it goes. 1, 2, 3, yell out free. I just spoke something over your life right now. You are now free to be able to move without any limitations. You are now free to be able to use your hands the way they were designed to be used for. You are now free to overcome obstacles and setbacks. And if there's anybody that you owe right now, your hands are now free to be able to work them and then pay off any debt that you are under right now. If you are happy that you're free, I want you to yell out free just one more time. Go ahead. Free! You're free. you now no longer have those invisible handcuffs on.
Get it, Pastor.
And now, well, we're almost about to pull out the offering plate. I'm coming. And now, and I gotta just say this. I work for this. Some people ask me, Nisan, how do you just get up there and just say what it is that you say? I don't necessarily have it in those that's coming from the heart. But let me tell you, as a little 16-year-old, I was working my craft. I was motivated while I was young. And it's been about now 16 years that I reflect back on that time. It took work to get here. And I'm thankful that I can be able to inspire you and motivate you in this way. It's no doubt in my mind that somebody's going to leave here changed because your hands are now free. And I like Frank Sinatra. He said it best. He said, the best revenge, to pay back in revenge, is to live in massive success. So if you want to get revenge, live in massive success. And in order to live in massive success, you have to take massive action. And what I can tell you is right now, some of you aren't emailing enough. Some of you're not posting on Facebook enough. Some of you aren't doing your promotions enough. You are not doing the things that's going to help you get to that next level and live in a place of massive success. In order to have massive success, you have to have massive action. I like Grant Cardone. He said it best. He says, there is no such thing as necessarily getting breaks because the breaks come to those that take massive action. So if you want to take a break, do more. Do more if you want to get a break, in other words. So here it is. We're going back to these handcuffs. And now that we know that the handcuffs are free, I want to give you just my one little slide that I have on content. Because what I really want to do is motivate you. See, how many of you know that really your clients, what they really stand for is motivation? Before they can ever eat well, before they can ever train 3 to 5 times a week, they need to be motivated and inspired to do that. And such is the case with you. You have all the content, you're just lacking the motivation. You're just lacking that get up and go get it attitude. You're just lacking that understanding that your hands are free and your hands are empowered to do anything you task them to. You know what I believe? I just believe this, and I thank God for Great Growth. I thank God for my friends in Fit Body Boot Camp that helped me. But I believe everything I put my hands on turns to gold. I just believe that. I believe that everything I commit these hands to, I have special favor. It's going to work out in my favor. I just believe that. I do. And it takes work ethic. And it takes witnessing people using your eyes. Using your eyes. See, before some of us can ever be great, we got to witness greatness. I pulled my buddy Steve Halley to the side. I said, Steve, I know that you're a well-prepared man. I've known you for a long time. How long have you been prepared for your presentation? He said, I was prepared for this 2 months ago. And I said, man, that's the type of preparation that I need right there. Because I wonder if I could commit my hands to that level of work ethic and that level of diligence, how good could we really be? How good could we really be if we GSD like we say we do? How good? How good? Eric Thomas said it best. He says that preparation equals progress. And so, in order for you to be where you need to be, I'm telling you that you need to prepare and work in preparation. Because Stephen went on to say that after being prepared for 2 months in advance for his presentation, he would then look at his grease board, his motivation that he would check off every time that he prepared for his presentation. And how many times did, 20 times he went over his presentation. 20 times. 2 months in advance. That's the type of people that I like to witness. I'm preaching to myself as well. This is my first time going through my presentation. I'm going to be honest with you. But I like to rub elbows with people like that. I like to witness people who are getting the job done and not living with invisible handcuffs, because work ethic is going to help us reach our next level. So now we're going to move on to my one slide that I'm giving you on content, and I hope that it helps you. So I don't believe in customer service. I believe in people service. Because customer service then means that the only time we would serve them is if they're customers of ours or clients of ours. But I just believe in just good old-fashioned people service, that people just should be served for the fact of they are humans and they share in mankind with us. Now we're talking about going back to this one thing. Do you see the man who's diligent with his hands? He will one day stand before kings. And this is powerful. This is interesting. It's so important for us to witness greatness sometimes before we can ever be great. Because our eyes are our gateways to our heart. And when our heart is inspired, it makes our hands and our feet move. But the interesting thing about it is when you're diligent with your hands the way that you're supposed to be. When you're diligent with your hands the way that you should be, the way that you're empowered to be. You won't kneel before kings. You'll stand before them. That's powerful. Because most people kneel before kings. So what that in so many words and uncertain terms are saying is that when you use your hands the way that you ought to use your hands, when you have the level of work ethic that is already inside of you, it's going to be so good. Life is going to be so grand that it's going to be like you're standing among kings, because either one of two things. You are king, or you are queen, or you're going to be standing before kings. As in, you're ahead of the kings even. You're ahead of the queens even. Can you imagine what good, solid work ethic will take you? And when you use those hands the way that you ought to serve people the way that you're capable of, you won't kneel before them. You're either going to be just like them, or you're going to be before them as in ahead of them. And I know without doubt, I know with all certainty that I'm among kings and queens, or I wouldn't even mess with y'all. I wouldn't mess with you. And so I want to sort of conclude things because it was my goal to do a 30-minute presentation. That was my goal because Austin gives a mean eye back there, man. I can keep going, I really can. I want to end with a powerful story. Maybe you've heard this before. Actually, you haven't because I'm making a lot of it up. But it is a powerful story. I want you to pay close attention, seriously. I'm making some of this up. I'm just letting you know on the spot. But the main parts of this story is absolutely true. You know what? Let me reverse that. This story is true. This is a true story. It is. I'm talking about a king, and this king was tops among his land. This king was powerful. This king had 3 mighty men. And below the 3 mighty men, everybody in the land respected this king. But there were 3 mighty men that this one king had that was really second to none. One mighty man, he was a warrior. And this warrior, all right, he was so good at fighting, he killed people by the thousands. And as he fought, he was so good at it that the very sword froze to his hand. That's warrior number 1. Warrior number 2, he was also a bad man. And this particular warrior right here, he killed 800 men with one spear in one day, in one bout. Not a semi-automatic rifle, a spear. I imagine it went something like this. He killed, yes, in one day, 800 men with one spear. There was warrior number 3. He was in battle. All the men that he was fighting with for the king, they all withdrew from battle. They were scared. But this one man stood his ground. This one of the 3 mighty men, in service to the king, he stood his ground. And he slayed everybody in opposition. The king one day told his 3 mighty men, told the 3 men that he could count on, that he could really rely on. He told these 3 mighty men that I'm thirsty. I need something to drink lest I die. And the three men, perplexed, looked at him and said, this is interesting because, King, listen, O king, you're a bad man. In fact, you taught us everything you know. And it's interesting that you have succumbed to the human body. And unless we get you water, you die. So what these three men did, hear me clearly, is they fought through enemy territory. And they drew water from a well. And they drew this water from the well. And they brought it back to the king. And I imagine, as they brought this water back to the king, they told them their war story. They told them the story that I dumped and I died and I almost got my head chopped off. I snapped somebody's neck. I fetched your water. So when the king grabbed the water and just seconds away from taking a sip out of that water, he then pours it on the ground. He pours it on the ground and then he says this. He says this with clear certainty that this water is like the blood of you three. And far be it from me to drink something like this because of the level of sacrifice you went through. I'm unworthy of it. And now let's connect this to customer service. I took the long way home. See, you ought to be so good at serving. You got to be so good at it that at the end of the day, people are looking at you saying, I'm unworthy of it. I wonder if you could give just a little bit more. I wonder if you could serve people just a little bit better. Like Matt Wilbur said, you got to have passion to serve people and really love the people that you're serving. Here it is. When they sacrificed the three men and broke through enemy territory to draw water from that well, they did not say, I could lose my life. They went into that battle saying, I could lose my life, but if that be the case, then that's my job. And what I'm letting you know right now is that real good people service, not customer service, real good people service has to be so good that it's almost as if we're giving our life away. It's got to be that good. It's got to be that important to us. I know the dollars, they're important. I know multiple locations, they're important. I know rocking that Fit Body Boot Camp ring, boy, that's important. That shiny material that you got around your finger, that I'm so proud of that. That's important. At the end of the day, everything goes back to Carolyn. At the end of the day, everything goes back to the people that we're serving. And so, that is real handiwork. That's your handiwork. That's the work that your hands were created to do. I want to step out of my comfort zone. I really do. I want to be the best that I can for you guys. I want to lift my windows. I do. Fit body, you can do it. Fit body, stick to it. Fit body. I made this song up, so. The best boot camp. Fit body, hands up like a champ. Fit body, the best this one time. Fit body, you've just been trying to lie.